Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News, where there was a flurry of activity late last week and even into the weekend, all kicked off when Warner Brothers moved Aquaman from October to December. Now, Warner Brothers made the move because Disney's leaving December wide open because they're keeping Han Solo as a May release. I think it's a mistake to give up their hold on December, and you can see already that Warner Brothers is exploiting that, but that's the way Disney's rolling the dice. Disney probably feels, and I think rightfully so, that they can do whatever the hell they want and just come back to December the next year. But Aquaman's going to try and take advantage of the opportunity. I think Aquaman should be a summer release. I mean, hello. I mean, maybe they feel like it'll be an escape for people during the cold winter months. I mean, that's why Avatar did so well as a holiday release, because many people, as you might recall, were like, I wish I were on Pandora right now. In fact, some people even tried to commit suicide, and I don't know if any actually succeeded. I don't recall, because they knew they couldn't actually go to Pandora. That's really tragic. The whole Avatar situation is weird, and especially because they just invested so much money, speaking of Disney and Animal Kingdom, to build an Avatar land. And then, of course, James Cameron said, I don't know when the other movies are coming out, but why don't you go to the theme park? A really weird situation. It's all James Cameron's fault. He should make the movies already. But anyway, back to the schedule shift. So Aquaman moved to December, and Sony decided, hey, you know what? We can do better than the movie we currently have on that date, October 5th, 2018, The Girl in the Spider's Web, the new Dragon Tattoo movie, which we recently talked about. Fede Alvarez will direct, and they're recasting the entire movie, getting rid of Rooney Mara and Daniel Craig. So Sony, ironically, decided to put another spider movie in there, and that's Venom. So this news got everybody very excited. That I mean, we all knew a Venom movie was on Sony's to-do list, along with the Sinister Six film, but not this soon. October 5th, 2018, it's pretty darn close. So a fan theory, immediately sprung up on the interwebs, going with the spider theme here, and that was that Life, which comes out this weekend, is actually a Venom origin movie. And that was a delicious rumor. It was debunked pretty quickly. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But the idea that they would do an M. Night Shyamalan, the way he backdoored an Unbreakable sequel through Split, and the idea that maybe Jake Gyllenhaal might be Eddie Brock or something, like a new Venom, who would wear the Venom symbiote. It's so hard to pronounce that stupid word, and you usually just see it written down with comics. But anyway, I thought that was a great idea, and it would make Life make a little bit more sense. Someone told me the log line for Life was Alien meets 10 Little Indians, and I'm like, so you mean Alien, right? 10 Little Indians is the Agatha Christie story about all these people stuck in a confined space who were killed one by one. So it was ridiculous. But anyway, it made Life a little bit more interesting, and it made you think maybe there's a reason why they made Life, because right now it just does seem like Alien Light. But the Life movie debuted at South by Southwest on Saturday night. It had its premiere, and so people have seen the movie, and everybody said there's no Venom tease whatsoever, which is unfortunate. Sony, now that they're kind of worried about the movie, is trying to be like, maybe we're not, maybe we could go back and retcon it, and it's like, no, it's like you shoulda, woulda, coulda. It's too bad nobody thought of that. But obviously the movie was made before Split. But this is something to consider going forward for how to handle these movies and do some little more interesting things with introducing characters. But speaking of how you introduce characters, so often there are end credit sequences. So with Venom so close to coming aboard, one has to wonder, where might they tease the next movie? Will it be at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming in an end credit sequence? Will it be during the movie? Of course, one person to become Venom later on in the comics is Flash Thompson, who's played by Tony Revolori. So that would be very interesting indeed, if he did eventually don the symbiote. But anyway, the other place I think they might tease Venom, which would be pretty interesting, because these are now, Spider-Man's officially part of the MCU. What about in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2? Because, of course, the Venom symbiote does come from space, right? And, that would be a good way to tie everything together. And it would be interesting if Peter Parker, would he be wearing the spacesuit during Infinity War? Maybe he should have gotten it in Infinity War. But if they're making a Venom movie beforehand, I don't think that can obviously happen. But it's pretty interesting. Then there are a whole bunch of questions of whether they're going with the hero or villain version of the character. Will Tom Holland be in the movie? I think, that's why I didn't make a separate Venom video, because there's just too many question marks at this point. But it's pretty interesting as it begins to come together. The Life movie was lifted up for a few precious moments and then came crashing down even further than where it was when it started. All right, so anyway, everyone now is like, and everyone will look at Life now and be like, oh, that could have been so cool, but it's not. All right, so anyway, another big bit of news that came out late last week was that Henry Cavill is joining Mission Impossible 6. Christopher McQuarrie invited him. I'm sure the deals had already been signed, but that's how they announced it. They had like a cute little conversation on social media. And it couldn't be better news for Henry Cavill. It's very exciting. I think he's going to just do absolutely phenomenal there. I wonder if Jeremy Renner is still involved. Like, how much room is there in a Mission Impossible movie, right? Rebecca Ferguson is returning, which is fabulous. I'm sure Simon Pegg will come back. But Henry Cavill is incredibly charismatic. I liked him in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I think he's wonderful on Instagram. I think he's a really good actor, and I just think Superman's just not a great role for him, at least the way they've decided to play the character. But to let him get cut loose a little bit in a Mission Impossible movie, I think could be fabulous. I'm even thinking he might be the villain, because, isn't he otherwise repetitive to Tom Cruise? But one thing I thought was very interesting and concerned, I felt a little bad for Henry Cavill, because he seems a little innocent, doesn't he? Doesn't Henry Cavill seem like, oh, he's like so cute. I hope he's okay. But I feel he's a prime candidate for Scientology. I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, this is so great for Henry Cavill. He's going to be on the set. And then I was like, uh-oh. Like maybe this is a way to coax him into Scientology, because I think he's, a prime candidate. Now, there are a lot of rumors about members of Scientology who are closeted. They're not openly gay, from John Travolta to Tom Cruise. And Cruise, of course, is the figurehead of Scientology and largely props up the entire organization and gives it the legitimacy that it has. So anyway, Henry Cavill's career, in addition to the potential closeted situation, his career just really hasn't taken off, right? So I'm thinking that either this is a recruitment attempt. They're like, hey, isn't it nice? We get to be in Mission Impossible 6. Because, he's going to be on set with Tom Cruise for like months. And then also maybe it's a done deal and this is his first reward, which is a pretty amazing reward. So I'm curious to see what happens. Let's keep an eye on Henry Cavill's career. I hope that it has turned a corner. But, one wonders at what price. All right, I feel bad. Everyone's probably like, Grace, why do you keep having all these rumors about Henry Cavill? First you talk about how there's rumors about him being gay, and then you say he might be a Scientologist. I don't know what's going on with him. It's interesting indeed. But speaking of Scientology, they tried to recruit Scarlett Johansson. This was before Katie Holmes. Katie Holmes was not Tom Cruise's first choice as a bride. He asked Scarlett Johansson to meet him for lunch, and then when she showed up, there were some Scientology people there, and rumor has it she just turned around and walked out of the room. And she's been better off for it. Her career has gone quite well. She's done a good job. Even though, again, Marvel won't give her her own Black Widow movie, she's managed to take her success with that character and parlay it into other opportunities. One, of course, was Lucy, and that did very well. And now she's going to be in Ghost in the Shell, which is part of the end of March panic that Hollywood is having. First 3 movies of March did quite well, but I think now people are worried everyone might have spent their money. They might be going to see those movies multiple times. Power Rangers, for instance, today is running a buy one, get one free promotion. I've never seen that for a movie before opening weekend. And now Ghost in the Shell has signed a deal with Chinese online ticketing service Weiying to help promote the film. It's a very lucrative deal, definitely for Weiying. We'll see how it plays out for Paramount's Ghost in the Shell. But in exchange for heavily promoting the film in China, Ghost in the Shell, Weiying gets 10% of worldwide revenue. That's not just, in China and not just overseas. That's the whole thing, the whole number, everywhere, including the United States. They get 10% of that, and that's off the top. So that's very impressive. And then they get their logo also at the end of the movie. So look for the Weiying logo when you go and see Ghost in the Shell. But they're worth that. You might be thinking, why would Paramount give up such a large chunk of the revenue for the film, right? Well, in China, 70% of tickets are sold online in comparison to just 20% in the United States. That 20% number is nuts to me, especially with reserved seating. I don't see how you can't buy your tickets online these days. But they still, I guess most people, particularly in the middle of the country, remember, a lot of us who are regular moviegoers, our patterns of attending the film attending the movies is very different than the people that go to make these huge openings, right? It's the people in the middle of the country who, and I'm curious, do you buy your tickets online? Let's do a little informal poll down below. But the numbers don't lie. 70% of tickets online, 70% of tickets are sold online in China, just 20% are sold online in the United States. So weighing is a huge part of that. This is actually the second time that Paramount has worked with them, and it went very well the first time, which is probably why they're doing it again. Weighing promoted Triple X, The Return of Xander Cage, which so far in China has made $163 million. What's it made in the United States? Just 44. So thanks to Weiying's efforts, in total, the third Triple X movie has made $345 million worldwide, and it, of course, had an $85 million budget. It's Vin Diesel's biggest movie, actually, where he stars outside of the Fast and Furious franchise. So Weiying seems to be worth the 10%, but let's see if they can deliver 2 times in a row. All right. Especially, I'll be curious to see if they can deliver with The Ghost in the Shell because of the whitewashing controversy. And also, it's an anime property out of Japan. How will that play in China? All right. So the viewer question comes from BTT viewer Dom, who was one of the 25 that I selected for viewer Skype conversations on Sunday, yesterday. So I had a great time talking to Dom. He's studying film in Australia. And he had a question for Morning Movie News. So Dom said, "Hey, Grace, I was wondering if I could ask you a question for Morning Movie News." Of course you can, Dom. It seems in this day and age, casting directors are asking people to star in their movies rather than getting people to audition for them, as seen in both Ewan McGregor and McKellen stating they haven't even seen Beauty and the Beast. Why do you think Hollywood in particular no longer relies on auditions as much, whereas TV still calls for auditions? Well, let me clarify this for you. So first of all, casting directors aren't in charge of who auditions and who doesn't. How a casting director works with a director or a producer is that a casting director's job is to come up with a list of suggestions, for the director and producers. It depends at what point the production has come along. Sometimes they start casting before they've hired a director, as you know. So the casting director's idea is to come up with a list, also to think outside the box, right? Come up with, for instance, Luke Evans was cast in Beauty and the Beast because the casting director had seen him a long time ago on the West End in London in a musical and said, "Hey, that guy can sing. I'm going to remember that for some day." And then it came up. So that's their job, to scout talent and, just to have have ideas stored in the bank. Also, they know who's available, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what a casting director does. But a casting director works for the producer and the director. They are not in any means deciding who has to audition, who doesn't. They don't have that kind of power. But when it comes to movies, it's the same for TV, actually. It depends who's bigger, the actor or the project. For instance, for Big Little Lies, the recent HBO show that Reese Witherspoon is producing. Well, she's producing it, so she didn't have to audition. And then I'm sure Shailene Woodley and Nicole Kidman didn't have to audition either. I'm sure Alexander Skarsgård didn't need to audition because they need the actors. And they know basically what they can do because of their previous work. So that's why those actors wouldn't have to audition. Now, for something like Beauty and the Beast, they want the names. They wanted a star-studded cast. And if you tell Ewan McGregor or Ian McKellen they have to audition to play a candlestick and a clock, they might say, well, I'm going to give a hard pass right out of the gate. So you want to coax them into being in your movie, and also, they just have to do line readings. And I thought that Ian McKellen I was disappointed with, but Ewan McGregor I thought pulled it off, even though maybe he would have done an even better job if he was familiar with the source material. But that's on Ewan McGregor. Although, does he really care at this point? The movie's so successful. So that's why sometimes somebody doesn't have to audition. So again, the rule is, what's bigger, the actor or the project? And now with comic book movies, sometimes somebody has to audition, even if they're a big name talent, to see how they look in the costume, and also to see how they feel about it too, if they're unsure, if this is a good match for them. For instance, Captain Marvel, I'm sure Brie Larson had to audition, just to see how she would feel in it. And also for chemistry, does the actor work well with the other actors? So you want to see, does she get along with Chris Evans or Robert Downey Jr.? Also, a lot of times with romances. So you cast the lead, that person's done. They didn't have to audition because they're the lead. They're hopefully bringing some star power. Now, then actresses, it's often the actor who's cast first. So then the actresses need to come in, and even though they might be names themselves, To some degree, actresses are finally getting up to the level of their male counterparts. But they're going to have to read and see if they have good chemistry with the other actor to make sure that it's going to work on screen. Although I think for a movie like Passengers, for instance, Jennifer Lawrence and Chris Pratt did not need to audition, and I'm sure they didn't need to see how their chemistry was. Somebody said, wouldn't it be great if Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence co-starred in a movie? And I'm sure their agents and they themselves said, yeah, that would be pretty amazing. And it turned out it's doing really well on streaming, as I predicted. I originally thought it would be $1 billion picture, but those reviews kind of made it, they crippled it going into the theater. It could have been really good if they'd just gotten rid of that twist that was so unsavory to the media. All right, so, and I can understand why. But anyway, so that's when you would audition if you were still even if you were a big star. So that's why, it's considered insulting to ask someone to audition if they're really, really talented and really famous. Like, it just, they don't have to, right? So, except in their rare circumstances where the project's bigger than them or they're changing, like, this is something you don't normally do, so we want to see if you can do it. And again, sometimes the actor wants to try it because they're like, maybe I don't want to do it because maybe I can't. So that's how it works. And it's the same for movies and TV. So at a certain point in your career, like Viola Davis doesn't need to audition anymore. I mean, she's an Oscar winner. She's proven what she can do. And you know what she can do. Again, if you're a big star, it's because people know you. And again, they know what you can do. But let's say Charlize Theron wanted to play Catwoman, right? You need to see what her chemistry was with Ben Affleck. How they look on camera together. You want to do a screen test, see what, they re-scene together. You see if they look nice opposite each other. What's the dynamic? And then Ben Affleck, of course, being such a pivotal part of the DCEU, would need to sign off, I'm sure, on his co-star, someone like that. I'm sure he produces, so the producers have to sign off. So it's a complex situation. It's political, but I hope, Dom, that explains it to you. And as far as not having seen the movie, I don't think they quizzed them because, again, they wanted Ewan McGregor and Ian McKellen. They wanted names, so I don't think they quizzed them. They were like, don't ask them anything, just like, please, for the love of God, will you be in our Disney's Beauty and the Beast movie? And I think it totally paid off. I'm going to talk about that either later today or tomorrow. I think Beauty and the Beast, this was a good investment for them, even though if maybe things weren't quite, some areas were a little weaker than they could have been if they'd been a little bit more questioning. So anyway, that's today's morning movie news. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Please write down below today's top 3 stories, Dom's viewer question, anything you'd like to see covered tomorrow, and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.